Welcome to the 2024 Women's Leadership Summit. We're about to get started. During the panel part of this program, you will not be able to get off mute or video, but we will have breakout sessions where you can. Please put any questions or comments you have in the Q&A or chat boxes, and our staff will monitor those questions. If we have time at the end of the panel, we will go ahead and feed those to our panelists for answers. Otherwise, you can just bop over to those breakout rooms and ask them as well. We request all attendees to show respect and professionalism towards our panel members and moderators and one another. Our mission is to provide a meaningful way that inspires lifelong connection to Washington State University. A WSU AA staff member will monitor our chat and breakout sessions, and actions will be taken and inappropriate comments are made. Before we get underway this afternoon, I would like to ask everyone to participate in a quick poll. Since we're unable to see each other, we just want to know who is in the room. So if you want to answer those questions, and then you can hit that little X when you're done, we will address who's in the room in a little bit. With that, let's get started.
Good morning or good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Mariah Mackey, and I am proud to support the WSU Alumni Association as its Executive Director and Associate Vice President for Advancement. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the WSU Alumni Association's 4th Annual Women's Leadership Summit. Today, we'll hear from WSU graduates who are leading with purpose and inspiring others around them to be their absolute best selves. To start off, I'd like to share our WSU Land Acknowledgement Statement. Washington State University acknowledges that its locations statewide are on the homelands of Native peoples who have lived in this region from time immemorial. Currently, there are 42 tribes, 35 of which are federally recognized that share traditional homelands and waterways in what is now Washington State. Some of these are nations and confederacies that represent multiple tribes and bands. The university expresses its deepest respect for and gratitude towards these original and current caretakers of the region. As an academic community, we acknowledge our responsibility to establish and maintain relationships with these tribes and Native peoples in support of tribal sovereignty and the inclusion of their voices in teaching, research, and programming. Now, I'd like to extend a special thank you to those campuses and special alumni groups that are hosting watch parties today. WSU Everett, we know you're out there. Thank you so much for joining us. WSU Pullman, I'd like to give a special thank you to the Women's Center, who is celebrating their 50th anniversary this year, for co-hosting the Pullman Watch Party right here in the Lewis Alumni Center. Congratulations to the center's incredible staff and to the many women leaders who have supported WSU women for the last 50 years. Starbucks, Walmart, and Schweitzer Engineering Labs all have WSU alumni groups watching and connecting around today's events. Thank you all. And a final thank you to Dr. Noel Scholes, our WSU First Lady, and Jane Young, our former Alumni Association board president, who initiated this fantastic idea of creating a platform for our alumni to share and inspire others annually with this panel discussion. I'm incredibly pleased to see so many of you online with us today, and I really want to thank you for your support of this important annual event. The women leaders speaking today represent each of the amazing campuses in the WSU system: Pullman, Spokane, Tri-Cities, Everett, Vancouver, and our global campus. Today's webinar is going to be recorded and available for viewing by visiting the Alumni Association's Video Archive Library. We will post the link to the video archive in the chat for you. Now, I have the pleasure of sharing a few things about what the Princeton Review calls one of the top 20 alumni networks for public colleges in the US. Our WSU Alumni Association supports 245,000 alumni worldwide with engagement programming and networking experiences, communications, and volunteer and mentoring opportunities. We have 54 chapters and clubs around the country with over 200 volunteers working hard to create inclusive communities of support for our Cougs. Whether you identify as a parent, student, fan, alum, faculty, or staff member, we welcome you to not only engage with us and your fellow Cougs in support of the institution that you love, but also join as an alumni association member. We are currently 46,000 members strong with an ever-growing assortment of discounts and benefits. Membership is what drives the initiatives offered to Cougs nationwide. If you are already a member, thank you so much. If you are not yet a member but would like to join, we're going to drop a link in the chat for you. And then finally, for any Cougs here in Washington State, you've all seen those great Coug license plates on the road. But did you know that each year the WSU license plate program fuels over $300,000 in scholarships to our students across the campuses? A big virtual shout out to all of you who display your WSU pride with a Cougar plate. Please check out the WSU alumni website for more details on this program. To ask questions during today's summit, please utilize the Q&A messaging system at the bottom of your control panel. The event hosts are going to relay questions to our speakers, and we'll do our very best to get as many questions answered today as possible. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce our panel moderator for this afternoon, a member of the WSU Board of Regents since 2018, a native of Spokane, Washington, a highly accomplished community and business leader, and a proud WSU Pullman alumna, class of '91, Marty Dickinson. Marty.
Thank you, Mariah. I appreciate the introduction. Welcome, everybody. This is really, really fun to be here today. So I'm very honored and excited to do this. And we have a wonderful panel of just really impressive women. So let's just kind of jump in. I was going to tell you a little bit about myself. As Mariah shared, I graduated from WSU in 1991 from our School of amazing Edward R. Murrow School of Communications there. In fact, I just got to spend the day in Pullman last week doing guest lecturing to our several senior classes and talking to kind of the next generation of Cougs that are about to hit the professional world. So that was exciting. My current job and role that I have is I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Lending Officer for STCU, which is a $6 billion credit union based out of Spokane, Washington. And in addition to that role that I get to play every day, I have had the amazing honor to serve as a WSU Board of Regent, and I'm on my second term. These aren't small terms. That you get to serve on up to three terms at the pleasure of the governor of the state of Washington, and there are 6-year terms. So times, think about that, 3 times 6. So it's a commitment, to say the least. I also had an amazing opportunity, and one of the more challenging things I've ever done, to be the chairman of the Board of Regents through 2019 to 2022, which, yes, that was our COVID period. So very unprecedented, but so incredibly grateful to have been able to do that alongside President Schultz and my other fellow regents. One thing that I think is interesting for this call today that maybe some of you are not familiar with, but Washington State University has an executive committee within our Board of Regents, and that consists of 3 women. I'm not sure that's ever occurred in the history at WSU before, and I know currently with other like universities that is not the case. So we have 3 women, myself as the past chair, Lisa Schauer, the current chair, and Jeanette Ramos, the incoming chair behind Lisa. And so we're pretty proud of that. Both Lisa and Jeanette are women of color. And so it just, we feel really fortunate that we've had leadership, again, like President Schultz, and we know his amazing, I tease him, his amazing better half, but his wonderful partner, Noel. We're just really fortunate to have Noel at the helm there as well, because I know that she has influence around just raising and rising up women. And so I just thought that was kind of a noteworthy thing to share with all of you today and with this audience. The last thing I'll say is my true legacy that I love and am most proud of anything I've done besides being a mother, is really spending 10 years of my life on a journey as the chair of the Medical School Advisory Board out of Spokane, Washington. And it was a little group of people who sat with Elson Floyd many years ago when he said, hey, we're going to do our own medical school. And it took us 10 years to get there. And I was fortunate enough to lead that effort out of the Spokane community and partner with Washington State University and our state on that. And what a journey that was to do the Elson S. Floyd Medical School and to know that we are graduating 80 plus doctors a year now. So that's kind of my little bit of pride that I really tie and hold dearly. The last thing I will say is when I was in college as a senior, I met this amazing woman because we both were on the WSU Panhellenic Leadership Board, and her name was Jane Young. And she and I got the good fortune of our senior year of university at WSU in Pullman to lead our Greek system from the sorority side of things. And I just knew how special she was. And so I just want to give a shout out to Jane because it's no surprise that she and Noel would be forces behind something like this. So super excited to get this going. I love that we have such amazing representation, Mariah, from all of our campuses. I'm so excited to introduce some of these individuals that will be on our panel. But before we jump into the panel, I wanted to share some of our polling results. So on our call today, you can see we have 56% of our staff and faculty. So a huge shout out to the amazing women on WSU's faculty. I've had a really wonderful opportunity to meet many faculty members, in particular in the last few weeks. And we just are very fortunate for the caliber of people that we have and for some of just the forward progressive women that are on WSU's faculty. I love that we have students joining us. I think that's pretty awesome. And then just as always, we appreciate getting alumni engaged and understanding, who makes up WSU alumni and how impressive and how deep the well is of resources, talent, and just true knowledge within our alumni. In the next area, as far as just kind of the industries that we represent, it looks like we have about 77% are from kind of our accounting space, if you will, and about 30% from the administrative space. We've got some healthcare representation, some business development, 21% from the education side. We've got a few marketers out there, and some media and comm people. So just again, thank you. I think we've got a nice, well-rounded group of folks here today. So appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to move into getting to introduce our amazing panel. And I got a brief moment with all of them before we came on to the call here this morning, and just so excited. And I had the great fortune of getting to really read deeply into each one's bios, and it just makes me proud of WSU and the women that, women leadership that comes out of WSU and does really meaningful things across the globe. So our first panelist is Nashika Stanbro. Nashika is there you are, I'll give you a little wave there. Nashika is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director of Washington State Housing Finance Commission. We chuckle because it's a bit of a mouthful, but it's a very important commission and does a lot of amazing work for a lot of people in our state, Nashika. So Nashika graduated from Washington State University Everett campus, go Everett, and she did that in 2018. So we're glad to have you. Next, we have Katie Kane. Katie is the Director of Technical Program Management at Walmart Global Tech. Katie is a 2014 graduate from our WSU Global Executive MBA program. That's just really awesome, Katie. Congratulations. You have a wonderful story around that. I know that goes much deeper than just coming back into the global executive program. So one day I'd love to have you share that more. And a really fun fact about Katie is she puts it right. She does what she says she's going to do. And she is the incoming president-elect of the Washington State University Alumni Association. So we get to see more of you in the future. Next, we have Jasmine Tolbert. Jasmine is the Vice President of People and Culture at YWCA Clark County. And Jasmine is a graduate from our Vancouver campus, and she did that in 2017. Big shout out to Jasmine. We're glad that you're with us, Jasmine. You have a great smile, by the way. Blair Rosso is Vice President of Pharmacy Operations, Community Health Association of Spokane, better known as CHAS Health. And Blair is a 2014 graduate from WSU Spokane. And Blair, the work that you and Chaz do for so many is to be commended. It is truly remarkable, and our community's better having Chaz in it. So thank you. Madison Rosenbaum Evangelista is our next panelist. She is a creative media and branding specialist for Mid-Columbia Libraries. She graduated from WSU Tri-Cities in 2015. So hello, Madison. Glad to have you here. And then finally, we have Dr. Chayo Flores. She is the president of Pierce College, Puyallup. She graduated from Pullman in 2014, and I just really anxious to hear from you as well. You have an interesting perspective, I'm sure, Chayo, with just what is happening in higher ed today's. It's an ever-changing world, so we know you have a big job. So that is our group of panelists, everybody, and I'm going to get right into it so that we can hear from everyone. So first, I would like to ask the entire panel, and I think what I'll do is I'm going to go in this order just so you guys know what I'm going to do. But Nashika, I'm going to ask you first. Katie, I'm going to go second. Jasmine, I'll go third. Blair, Madison, and Chayo. Okay, does that work? So Nashika, my question for you and for all of you was, what was your major, your graduation year, and most importantly, I love this, what advice would you give yourself as a freshman in college?
Okay, so I graduated from the Integrated Strategic Communications program at WSU Everett in 2018. And the advice I would give to myself would be to look beyond seeing WSU Everett as a commuter campus and really immerse myself in all that the campus had to offer. I didn't do that right away. I waited until my senior year, and I loved every minute of it. I just would have liked to have gotten into it and seen the campus that way a little bit sooner.
Great advice, actually. I love that. I think that kind of can go anywhere, right? Even if you're on the big Pullman campus too. It's a little intimidating, but it's good to try to just get yourself out there as soon as you can. Okay, Katie.
Thanks, Marty. So I studied social sciences. I had concentrations in anthropology and history, and I did a minor in business, which was a lot. I graduated from WSU in 2014 from Global Campus. Interestingly, I also went back to school in 2016 to study organizational leadership at Gonzaga, where I received a master's degree in 2018. My college journey was pretty long. It started in 1989 and completed in 2018. So it was a lot. I think it's interesting to imagine what my life might have been like if I had prioritized school over working full time when I was younger. And so eventually, what I ended up doing was taking classes sort of here and there over that 20-year stretch. But if I had done that, I probably wouldn't have found my way to WSU. So you take that together. But when I think back on my time at WSU, the advice I'd give is probably not to wait so long before I actually start writing my papers. Most of what I did was writing essays, and I would just do all the reading, hardly took any notes or outlines, and just dove right in. and just started going crazy with my writing. But I think if I had paced myself, I probably would have been a little less stressed.
That's good advice. I'm sure, you know, I loved one of the comments in chat was the scenic route that you took. But you know, hats off to you, Katie. I've heard your story there before, but the perseverance, and you know, the courage just to keep going while you're trying to work, you're trying to probably raise a family, you're trying to do a lot of things. It's a long journey, but hats off to you for, you know, what you've been able to do at the global with your MBA and your master's in organizational leadership. That's really impressive. So thank you. Jasmine.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. So I graduated with my bachelor's degree from our Vancouver campus back in 2017 with my bachelor's degree in social sciences with a concentration in human resources and personnel psychology. If I were to give myself some advice, I would probably say, it's been said a little bit, get involved, pace myself. But outside of that, I just really say just to embrace each moment. I really appreciated my time so much on campus, and I just appreciated all the different learning opportunities I had, like both formal and informal. And I would say just leaning into those just a little bit more and just embracing each opportunity I had on campus, because when I was on campus, it was an opportunity to really like test out things before, you know, going into the real world. And so having that opportunity is such a blessing. And I just wish I embraced it a little bit more.
Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, we pace and embrace at the same time, right? Okay, Blair.
Yeah, so I graduated from the College of Pharmacy School in 2014 with my Doctor of Pharmacy. And I spent the first 5 years of my program was actually in Pullman. So I got to experience both locations, which is really fortunate. If I were to tell my freshman self some advice, I would say to really, you know, be confident and trust yourself. I think when we're starting out in a new space, we have a lot of worry about what's coming next. So I think just, you know, going with your gut. And I also think I would have enjoyed the opportunity to network or be more involved with people within my program or profession. I did luck out having a good group of close friends from the dorms in our freshman year, but it didn't really push me to really embrace those opportunities. So,
Thanks, Blair. I love the just the confidence, because you know what 18-year-old freshman, right? Regardless of background, what you're coming from, there's a confidence piece that really does get shaken a bit. And trying to find that footing your first year is always interesting. So great advice. Madison. And Madison, maybe we could have gone with like more of kind of a crimson color for the, you know, to be in the vibe with the WSU day.
I know, I thought about that. I should have dyed my hair a little bit different for today, but thank you. Hi, I'm Madison. I graduated from WSU Tri-Cities in 2015 with a double major in psychology and digital technology and culture. And the advice that I would give to myself is, I want to echo Jasmine a little bit here. There's a quote, I love The Office so much. I quote it all the time. But there's a quote from The Office from Andy Bernard, and he says, I wish there was a way to know you're in the good times or the old days before you've actually left them. And I've been reflecting on my time at WSU, and it was the best 5 years of my life. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity. And I really wish that I could go back often, you know, and even though like I didn't like the test days or the late nights of studying, that was always hard. But those are days that I kind of fondly miss, and I miss the routine of school a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, to not rush through that period, right? And as Jasmine said, try to really soak up the moment there. And who would have ever thought that Andy Bernard would be so wise?
I know, he's definitely not the wisest one, but
But he's sneaky, so that's good. Okay, thank you, Madison. Chayo.
Greetings all, great to see so many people in the room, and so I'm so glad to be back. So really appreciate being here to share a bit about my story. So I graduated in 2014 with my doctorate in higher ed administration from the College of Education. So not maybe advice to the freshmen, because my journey started a long time before I started WSU. I was actually graduated, really proud community college alum, and picked up a bachelor's in business and a master's in business before I even embarked on my doctoral journey at WSU. But the advice I would give myself now would be to, and actually advice I had heard from someone else, hone in on my dissertation topic early on. I'd be gathering all of those supporting evidence, applying what I learned to my research and for my research. And so I wish I had done that. As a doctorate student first year, I was just eager to be back in the classroom, immerse in my studies, add to the body of research, all those great things. And while this made a lot of great sense, I just didn't follow that advice. I worked full time throughout my doctorate, and there were times where I had to sit out several semesters for work or other, personal life demands. And so, but I really enjoyed being in the classroom, the coursework, even statistics, the make and break class, and bonding with my classmates and of course my faculty. I know that there were times where, like many of us, we experience, frustration. In my case, I couldn't tackle that ever elusive dissertation topic. And there were so many times I just wanted to delve deeper and didn't have a lot of time to make that happen. And so I want to shout out to a really great colleague and friend, Dr. Raymond Herrera, who works there at WSU. He with his nudging, he kind of helped me put that puzzle together. And my dissertation topic, I was able to harness, my MBA background, tap my financial aid, higher ed experience, and my passion for serving first generation students of color, low income students of color. So, and finally, I just want to, forever indebted to the late and very great Kelly Ward, my advisor and guide in this process, in this journey. She's someone I admired greatly as a faculty member, and was really privileged to have her as advisor of my committee. And there were times where it was really great to see Kelly, and other times I was just avoiding her because I knew she was going to ask me how things were going. So it was a wonderful, a great experience overall. I don't regret any of those years. And it was, like I said, 10 years. And the only thing I regret is I wish, I could have gotten a little extra sleep, but that came later. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. This is what I think everyone's going to really enjoy about the panel. As you can see, the diversity in just experience and journeys of each of these panelists here today. So thanks for sharing all of that. We're going to get into our next question, which is, how did your experiences as a student, including those faculty-staff relationships at WSU, impact the direction of your professional career? And we're asking that question today of three people, and we'll go in this order. Jasmine, I'm going to ask you first, then Katie, and then Madison. So Jasmine.
Yeah, I can't even think that I would literally be in the actual job that I'm in. I had not had so many both in classroom and classroom experiences. So I think about how my journey started off with having a really great mentor in what was then called the Student Diversity Center. And I had a mentor who I still connect with. They're working on their PhD right now and doing amazing work. But thinking about how I worked with them, and they really helped to get me involved on campus with like different clubs and things of that nature, which was really helpful and really gave me that extra confidence I needed to really, sorry, one second, there we go, to really dial in on my confidence within the classroom, which helped me to initially land my first internship. And so I had a really great professor who I was able to connect with and was able to connect me to my first major internship. But then through that mentorship, through the Diversity Center, I was able to get really involved with an on-campus club of Black People United. And so I served in leadership throughout there. And we had done a lot of things within campus, but also a lot of items that connected the local Vancouver and Clark County community, which is how I ended up getting really connected with YWCA Clark County, where I work now. And so just that was like the bridge I needed to match my love of social justice and racial equity along with my career path of human resources. And so just getting matched with like the perfect internship that I needed with a wonderful instructor over there. And then really learning more and more about social justice through this club, and then getting connected to my favorite nonprofit and our community. And so that just transpired into great volunteering post-graduation, leadership post-graduation, a lot of different avenues within my community, but more specifically with YWCA. I served on the board, and now I'm here as a staff member. And I just can't think of I can't think of a single moment where WSU wasn't like a really good foundation that literally paved the way for where I am today.
Great answer there, Jasmine, and that kind of theme of confidence and seeking out others, right? To just kind of, you just never know what comes next, and what those little stepping stones and those pathways you're creating, what they lead to. That's a great story. Okay, Katie, how did your experiences as a student, including those faculty staff relationships at WSU, impact the direction of your professional career?
Yeah, so I think because I was a global campus student, my relationship with professors was a little bit different. But being a student and working full time was definitely interesting. I already had a career. I already was doing program management work at Yahoo while I was attending at WSU. But I was able to take a lot of what I was learning in class and apply it directly at work every single day. I noticed about myself that something kind of changed as I went through the learning process, and I became a little bit better at communicating, listening, choosing my words carefully, thinking about the impact my words had on people in the room. I remember I had gotten promoted to director, and all of a sudden I realized one day I was the highest level person in the room, and a bunch of my peers were asking me questions about, I don't know, some business decision or whether layoffs were coming or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're looking to me to give them the information. And I have to be really careful about what I say, because if I say this, they're going to take it and go somewhere else. So I think slowing down and being able to think about those things was something that I learned from my coursework. My area of study, which was anthropology in particular, left me with this feeling that while I might have an opinion about something, doesn't mean that it's the only valid opinion. And so I think through studying anthropology, you really learn that there are diverse perspectives, there are diverse life experiences. Each one of them is valid and interesting and appropriate and all of that. And so working in tech, I work with a lot of people from a lot of different cultures, and being able to just listen to them and understand their perspective was really helpful. There was one professor who I absolutely adored, Dr. Nancy McKee. I think she's retired now, but she was one of my anthropology professors, one of the very first classes I took, and I just absolutely adored her. There was a book we had to read in class that was rather difficult. It was really, really difficult subject matter. And so a few people in the class had actually asked her, hey, how, I don't want to read this. I'm not comfortable reading this. Can I have some other text to read? And she said something that I remember so clearly. It was something to the effect of, I'm here to expand your view of the world and get you to help you learn about the people in it, about life experiences that are different than your own. I'm not here to teach you what you already know. And again, I think that's just something you can take with you, whatever your career is. I do think that the same thing is true in business as it is in life. Like, you have to get out of your comfort zone, try to see a situation through somebody else's perspective, try something new so you can be a lifelong learner. And I know a few people have pulled out quotes, so I'm going to pull one out myself. I have this great Picasso quote on my wall. I'm always doing that which I cannot do in order that I may learn how to do it. And I think that's just really important, is to just keep learning. And I think going back to school as an adult, I was 40 when I went back to school, really cemented that for me.
That's outstanding. Thank you, Katie. I'm a big proponent of trying to develop my people and what I refer to as their kind of professional maturity. And it kind of encompasses all of those things, right? I love that you were able to kind of take that application of what you'd learned in your professional into your next layer of education. But that ability to be curious, as well as getting more and more self-aware as you become and move through this journey that we're all on, it's quite fascinating. And it, unfortunately, but fortunately, can only happen through actually doing it and stepping through it each time. So, okay, lastly, Madison.
Hello. Okay, so I'm going to be really honest. I did not want to go to college. I know that seems a little strange. I think there was a lot of stuff going on in my family life when I was graduating high school, and I was just like, no. So I applied to WSU Tri-Cities, and that was it. And I got in. I was like, well, here we go. I'm doing the thing. And I was really active in high school. I did student government. I was in every single club, captain of the swim team, just all of these different things. So when I came into WSU Tri-Cities, I was like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to get my education and run. And I am so glad that something switched in my life for me, which I know why it switched. It was because of the professors and the staff on campus, that saw my potential in me way before I had a chance to realize it in myself. My freshman year, I kind of just coasted through classes and was just trying to navigate life and figure things out. And by the end of the year, so a friend, I had met somebody in the hall, I know exactly who it was. Her name's Evelyn, and she works out at WSU Tri-Cities still. And she saw me in the hallway. She's like, I really think you should join the Women's Success Program. And I was like, well, okay. So, and that's really where it all started, was just people stopping me in the hallway and recruiting me to join their club. Love that for our students. But after that, it was getting involved with student government on campus and going to club meetings and Office of Student Involvement. And before I knew it, I was being sought out by one of I think it was the director of communications and marketing at the time, Melissa O'Neill Purdue. And I don't know how it happened. I didn't know who she was. And I think she emailed me, or somebody had emailed me. It was like, hey, they think you should apply for this internship in the marketing department. And I was like, me? You want me? Like, okay. So I applied and I got it. And that literally just solidified. Like, at that time I was just doing psychology, and then I kind of ended up switching over also to do DTC for my double major. And to have people on campus that were watching me, and I had no idea, and just they wanted to take the time to mentor me and provide that guidance that I so desperately was searching for that I didn't even know in myself. So that was on the student side, but even on, or excuse me, like the student involvement side, but for my education, a lot of my professors, I, again, owe so much to them, especially in the DTC program where I was planning for my capstone project, and they were like, I really think you should do an art show. And I'm like, well, I'm not even an artist. Like, I can't draw. And they're like, no, your photography, and not just you, but like you have potential for your capstone to, curate an art show. And so I ended up being the first student on campus to curate a student-led art show. And we had over, I think, 30 people participating. And I'm still kind of like flabbergasted by that experience, that somebody thought like, oh, she could do that. Let's just like tell her to go hang up some things and, run it. But it became something I'm so passionate about, like providing spaces to explore and express opinions and invite people to see the world differently through art. And I just really fell in love. And towards the end of my senior year, I had applied for a master's program to stay on campus and continue my internship. And it was supposed to be through higher education. And then I got into the program and found out they were phasing it out on campus. So I had to leave, but a DTC student reached out to me, and she was working at the library in the job I have now. And she was like, I'm leaving the library. I really think this is where you need to land. And I'm here. And I've been here for 9 years, and I thought I was going to leave, and I fell in love with the library and everything that we do for the community. And I fell in love with what I get to do, which is to share our resources and share stories with the community, both literally and also through the work that we do. So yeah, I would not be here without the support of staff and faculty.
Well, that's a wonderful story, Madison. I would say there's obviously, I love your little shout out to Evelyn on the the WSU Tri-Cities campus, but clearly there's a natural draw of people that want to engage with you, both, from a faculty and student standpoint. So that says a lot about you. I love the piece that I think, a takeaway for all of us on this call today, in particular as women, the more that we can do things that assisted like Madison for others, just the better. I think women can do and should do a better job of helping other women, because I still feel like we at times struggle with kind of that embattlement that we have. And at least in the private sector, it can be an interesting space at times. So the more we can do to lift up our fellow women, in particular, I love the young kind of piece and that energy that people like, all of you are providing. So okay, Chayo. Oh, excuse me. We're on to, look at, let's see, I was just going in a circle. Like, let's just keep talking about this. I'm sure Sarah's like, no, Marty. Okay, we're on to question 2. And that is, as a female leader in the industry, have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome? And if so, how do you navigate it? And so we are going to have Chayo, Katie, and Blair answer this question. And I will start with Chayo and then ask Blair and then Katie.
Thank you. So have I dealt with imposter syndrome? Yes, of course. And I'd say on many fronts, whether as a student, scholar, student affairs practitioner, to now as a president, it surfaces. And so the doubting, the questioning, of my ability, waiting for the shoe to drop. Many people here feel that, but there have been times throughout my career where I felt voiceless, lacking confidence, and sometimes I'd probably say lack of encouragement on part of others, but I've been as ever present I can be throughout many of those roles, navigating. I didn't exactly rely on a playbook, as I'm sure many of you, to navigate my career. I didn't climb the educational and career ladder in the same way as many of my counterparts, men or women, and I'd say that was pretty evident in my time at WSU, predominantly white institution. And while it was, I guess, rural, similar to my background, it wasn't quite the same. My journey is GED to PhD, and that took me a while to say. Not too many people understand that journey, and I'd say extending it beyond, sometimes don't understand or the journey of students, particularly those that start at community colleges, because oftentimes many of our students in community colleges are finding their way, navigating as first generation students of color, coming from low income backgrounds. And those were all me. So again, didn't really rely on a playbook. But, like many, you norm, you conform. In my case, I was code switching as well. But I was also trying to stay as authentic as to who I was as best possible. Many of the spaces I studied in, the places I worked, weren't necessarily designed for my success. Regardless, I developed some really strong relationships and networks, surrounded myself with some really great people. My work, all of the educational and the professional development, the experiences I had helped define how I showed up in space. And so I'm really forever grateful for that. And while it's not an easy feat, navigating, checking that imposter syndrome, and difficult to balance, I have developed some fortitude and some resiliency. I'm a bit fearless, and stubborn, as my parents would say. But that's all been integral to my success, not only in my career, but in the many, many other roles that I hold: a mother, a daughter, a sister, partner, mentor, etc. So, one thing that I've come to believe, is that each and everyone is a leader. Over time, I think the term natural born leader has come to mean that regardless of the role we have, we all have innate qualities and abilities that, whether we consciously or subconsciously know about, we use every day, to make things happen. And so I guess I'm going to quote something, and I believe I picked this up from a prior Women Leadership Summit, is, allowing yourself, to create opportunities for yourself, but to be celebrated and not just tolerated. And that really resonated with me, because I do feel, again, imposter syndrome is alive and well. And so I think whatever we can do to support one another and be cognizant of that, I think goes a long way. So
Thank you. Great. Your statement of GD to PhD journey is a powerful one, and hopefully an inspiring one for lots of people. So, okay, next we have Blair.
Yes, so I also would say I have experienced imposter syndrome throughout my career. Especially, I joined a leadership role early on after becoming a pharmacist. And so I initially tried to navigate that through, setting and accomplishing goals. When I would complete a project or a task or onboard a new team or open a new pharmacy, I found that those successes would help prove to myself that I can do this. I am a good leader, and this is where I'm meant to be. I also I would spend a lot of time finding external resources, podcasts, books around leadership, Harvard Business Review, and Brene Brown are a couple that I just continue to go back to and just gain a lot from those insights. And then a few years ago, my role shifted from more clinical operations to more of a financial and strategic role. And so I again found myself in that same, questioning, do I have the skills to do this role? And then at the same time, I decided I was a new mom, and then also decided to pursue my master's in business administration. And so between all of those, I really had to change my strategy to navigate that. And so that's when I got better about really practicing mindfulness and being present in the moment, positive self-talk, and meditation to kind of take yourself out of that negative conversation that's going on in your head, and really kind of power through. Some other things that have helped me throughout the years is really working with other female leaders who either have, been through some of these experiences before me that I can lean on. And I'm really grateful that at the organization I'm at, we do have a lot of female leaders here. And, just today I was chatting with someone and I had gathered my thoughts for this and thought, a lot of us really have this kind of like, you got this attitude and really trying to encourage each other. And then I got that this morning when I was talking about, my colleague said, you got this. So I thought it was just perfect timing. But really being open about it, I think is the final thing, and not kind of preventing yourself from having it or having it be something that you're dealing with, but not let it prevent you from moving forward and kind of pushing your own personal and professional success. So
Thank you, Blair. Your point of just, I think we all struggle sometimes of validating ourselves, right? Like even for me at 54 years old and can kind of go through things, I sometimes have to go, it's not by accident that I landed here, or that somebody was just really nice to me and I got this opportunity. I mean, I earned it, I've worked hard for it, and I've been good at the things I've done. But saying that and believing that and reassuring yourself of that it's hard to do. So I appreciate and I like that you were able to give us some of those resources. So thank you. Katie.
Yeah, like today I'm experiencing it. This is an amazing panel, right? I'm in excellent company, and in some ways in my brain, I definitely feel a little unworthy. So I continue to struggle with imposter syndrome. I don't know if it'll ever really go away. But I do find myself in the company of people I admire, and I don't know, I think it's a little bit natural to feel somewhat inadequate at times. And it's good to have people you admire. But I think the thing to do is just to have tools, and Blair mentioned this, and so did Marty, that help you show up well and take a couple of risks and just kind of always be moving that forward. In 2013, the year before I graduated, I realized I had a habit of turning down opportunities. Might have been because I thought I was going to fail, or I didn't feel like I was worthy, or I didn't have as much to offer as somebody else might. I wouldn't necessarily say I was content, but I was comfortable, I guess, sitting on the sidelines a little bit and rooting for other people. What I ended up doing that last year, right before I graduated in all of 2013, I said yes to everything. If somebody said, hey, can you come to this meeting? Yep, I can. Can you be on my podcast? Yep, I can do that. No problem. And really just try to get myself out of my comfort zone to sort of find out where my limit was. And then I got a phone call from Phyllis Erdman, who was the Dean of College of Education at the time. And she said, hey, want to come speak at commencement in Pullman in May? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Terrified, right? Why on earth did they choose me to do that? So I think for me, it stems from a lack of confidence, and it really has taken me a long time to realize that if people are asking for your opinion, it's because they think you have something to offer. If they ask you to participate in a Women's Leadership Summit panel, it's because they feel like you have something you can offer and something of value to share. They're not doing it just to be nice. And I think somebody else mentioned that as well. To boost my confidence in these situations, what works for me, I think, is preparation. I think a lot of the other panelists did the same thing, took some notes this morning, maybe read up on a topic or two, do some research, get yourself a little bit of a script so you don't completely lose track of where you are. And to something I think Blair talked about with, or actually it might have been Chayo, with the negative, we tend to fall into the negative self-talk. So purposely going after the positive self-talk, you can do this. Look yourself in the mirror if you don't have somebody to do that and pat you on the back and say, you got this. You're there for a reason. You have something to offer. You won't have all the answers. No one expects you to. It's just important to be present. And so I think that's what gets me through and just keeps me going.
Thanks, Kate. I hear you saying, and I love it. It's just really, when given the space, take it. Like say yes. But then, a good lesson that I think is a really noteworthy one for, in particular, young women coming through on the journey is that preparation. That does matter. And, if you're going to take the space, then show up and lean into it and be prepared and put your best foot forward. So I think those were good little nuggets of advice there, Katie. Okay, question number 3 is, where have you found the motivation and drive to power your path as a leader? And we're going to have 3 people answer this, and I'm going to go in this order. So I'm really excited, Nishika, to hear from you. You've been so patient with us as we've kind of moved through our questions. And then we'll go to Chayo and then Blair. So Nishika.
Okay, so as far as motivation, I would say my family, first and foremost. During my time as a student at WSU Everett, I was working full time. I was a single mom. Some would say non-traditional student. I like to say new traditional student. And yeah, I think that my family just really believed in me, and we made a kind of a wild and crazy decision that we would kind of put all our things in storage, move onto a sailing vessel, and that way I could leave my job and then complete my senior year and just focus on that full time. So definitely there were sacrifices made, but it was a really wonderful adventure all around. And I would say the phenomenal women that I met along the way that continue to motivate me. My best friend, we have like a healthy level of competition. We're always learning and sharing with one another. Dr. Sierra Graham, she was a career counselor at WSU Everett when I was there. And I think, speaking of your confidence, when you are getting to that graduation date and you're just not sure what's next and you need a little bit of guidance, that's what I was able to get from that career counseling. And it changed the way that I approached looking for jobs and really feeling like I could get a career out of this and that it's not just a job. And then continuing that journey. So I'm a big believer in counselors, whether it's career counseling, mental health counseling, or a career coach. Within the last year, I found myself an executive coach, and it was a phenomenal experience. And it really helped me to hone in on what my personal core value is. And that's really to help others and make a difference in the lives of others. So with that said, knowing my core value, it really anchors me, and it helps me to know when maybe that core value is being pushed up against in a way that will guide me in a different direction. But that's my North Star. And I don't think that I would have been able to figure that out, that's what motivates me and that's what keeps me centered if it weren't for working with some of those phenomenal women.
That's so, I love the counseling piece aside. I mean, we could do a separate, I think, show here or podcast meeting here on just the sailing vessel. So we got to get into that another time, but that's impressive. But I at 53 was given a professional coach, and I kind of was like, really, I'm 53. I've raised 3 kids. I've been married for 30 years. Like, I don't know if you're teaching this cat new tricks. And you're so spot on. What I have learned about myself and what motivates me, good and bad, quite frankly, of like what motivates me in times of crisis versus what motivates me in times of wanting to, it has really, really altered kind of my leadership style and even my parenting style, and even my weeding of the garden of friends, of who's filling my cup. So you can never not kind of be open to that, I think. So I appreciate you saying that a lot. It hit home for me. So next we have Chayo.
So a lot has motivated me and driven me and throughout, as you know, you just mentioned, Marty, it's different when you're 20 versus 30 versus 40, and I'm not 40 anymore, but yeah, I'd say, it's been driven by I like to say her story, not my history. My journey as a woman of color, a Latina, my trajectory, while it hasn't always been easy, and as we were talking earlier, in terms of imposter syndrome, I've questioned, do I belong here? Can I really make a difference? But it also has built character in a different way that I think has really driven and served me well. I mentioned earlier, my journey as a first generation college student from GED to PhD, that was instrumental to my career. I am many firsts, I'm the firstborn, the first in my family to graduate college. The only one who didn't graduate high school, to that of my siblings. But I would say, as mentioned, I think earlier, family was really important. I come from a long line of mujeres fuerte. This means fierce, strong women in Spanish. My mother and her sisters, they were born and raised in Mexico. And, they made the best of what this country offered them, supporting their spouses, raising their children in environments that weren't always supportive of them. And that has really driven my motivation as well, particularly in working with students. So I'd say also, though, particularly to my field, my career, what motivates me is a commitment to foster and support quality and diverse experiences in all aspects of my life. I really strive for that. And I think that's what eventually drew me away from WSU. It beckoned me back to my community college roots to serve students and a community or communities that are in many ways a reflection of me. I think Nashika mentioned earlier, she has her North Star. I have a mantra or motto, and that is lifting others, sparking connections. Me as a leader, I'm going to continue to strive for authenticity in my work, and focus on developing greater humility, empathy, self-awareness, compassion, because I think that's critical to fully support others, to lift others and support others. But putting this into action often takes a great amount of vulnerability. And I think this is often very difficult for women, particularly in certain spaces, to express. I think we've been taught and trained to view vulnerability as a weakness. And I'll quote another Brene Brown. She says it's essential for deeper relationships and good leadership. And this is, I'd say, not just specific to women. I'd say this is true for men as well. And so, yeah, I found motivation, and I do every day, just spending time with my students, with my staff, with my communities. And so I'm really, really grateful for that.
You're kind of doing the right work, right? When your cup is getting filled by those very things. But obviously you're filling many others, Chayo, by just your presence. So thank you. Very wise. Lastly, for this question, we would love to hear from Blair.
I would echo that my family is the source of my motivation and drive. I find myself wanting to continue to challenge myself and keep going. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old little boy, both boys. And so I also feel some, drive to want them to grow up in a world where women are leaders and they see that. And so I feel like I just, continue to want to expose them to that as they grow. And then also in my, day-to-day work, my motivation, I find, comes from people, mostly from other people. I've built relationships with our employees. My role as a leader is really to advocate for them. And so continuously identifying, what they need in order to maintain the best quality of care, do the work that they need to do for patients. And so, I continue, and I also want them to be at this organization and continue to stay here. So that's, important to me too. With that, we often internally grow a lot of our employees. So I also really enjoy whether we have, a new pharmacy technician that's in our pharmacy technician apprentice program, and really building those clinical staff, or pharmacy staff that then become leaders themselves. And so what I find within my work is that a lot of Chayo brought up the natural born leaders. It's not something that necessarily was their educational path. And so really helping support and mentor those individuals to become leaders themselves is really has been rewarding. And then I think the work that we do also is just something that continues to bring me back. Patients, no matter what obstacles that exist, I'm continuing to find ways that we can provide more accessible care, whether that's access to medications or just healthcare in general. And so that in itself is just motivating. And then I want to end with just saying that leadership roles are hard. And it's not, that's just something that it is an accurate picture. And so when you can find those organizations that match your value system, I think that was similar to what Nishika brought up. But it just makes some of that hard work worthwhile and continues to keep you motivated in itself. So.
That's great. Again, the work that you do each day, Blair, in the trenches is real work. And it's some days can be really rewarding. And I know some days can be really, really hard to feel like we're moving the needle at all. So thank you. Lastly, we'll have one final question here. So, which I kind of sad because we could keep doing this. All of you have such great stuff to share. So our fourth question is to share a story about how you developed resiliency in the face of challenges and adversity. And so our three panelists who are going to answer this question, and in this order, I'm going to ask Jasmine to kick this off for us, and then we will go to Madison, and then Nishika. So Jasmine.
Sorry, just coming off mute here. Thanks. This is always it's a really good question, and it's something that really makes me reflect on my journey, because when I think about my experiences as a woman, I also think about hand in hand the intersectionality of also my experiences as being a Black woman in this world and navigating that. And so developing resiliency is tricky, and it's even trickier when I'm someone that's really prided myself in furthering my values on racial equity in our community. And so it's really really getting my base for this on campus and a lot of knowledge around this on campus, and then applying this to the greater community that I live in. It's really looked like consistently focusing on my why is where I always end up developing the resiliency that I need. It's remembering what my goal is, why I'm here, and when I face challenges that might make me want to turn away from moving forward, I think about what's my ultimate goal here. And if I really want that goal to happen, will that mean that I need to lean in and do the things that are uncomfortable and say the things that are uncomfortable and advocate for the things that are uncomfortable? Or am I in a situation where leaning in may not result in much? And so should I be channeling my efforts somewhere else? And so by consistently always asking myself, what's my why, what's my goal, and centering that, that's really, really, really helped me to power through when it's necessary, but also to not power through when it's not necessary. I think that I think sometimes there's some misconceptions about what it means to be resilient and what it means to be, quote, strong and powerful as a person in general, but especially as women and especially as Black women. And sometimes I've found that it's more important to where my goal is, doing XYZ, it's also sometimes more important to put myself and my own sanity first as well. So I just wanted to speak to that a little bit, but also just speak to just centering my why, and my why is always what guides me.
Your quote, power through when necessary versus when to not power through, is outstanding. I just wrote, that's an awesome one. So thank you, Jasmine. Madison.
Thanks, Marty. I will preface this conversation a little bit that I want to share this story, but it makes me a little bit emotional. So just bear with me if I, want to shed a couple tears. Because it's a big part of who I am now, and especially showing up for this conference today. So on February 21st, 2022, I was 29 years old and diagnosed with stage 3A breast cancer. Later in that year, I was moved to stage 4. And there's nothing quite like a diagnosis like that that'll make you reevaluate everything you are and everything you're doing. And, especially when you feel death knocking at your door, especially going through chemotherapy, every day kind of feels like you're dying. and you are on that brink, right? So that I lost about a year of my life going through treatment. And I really have to give a shout out to just like the communities that I found through that experience, the cancer community. My mom, she went through a cancer diagnosis right before me. And then so she was able to help me guide through that process. The folks here at the library, everybody kind of turned up and said, okay, we're right here with you. Even though like it's not really a battle that they can fight with you necessarily, but they can kind of cheer you on, which was immensely helpful, especially when there are days where you don't really want to get out of bed, you don't want to show up, just because it's hard, and it still is hard in a lot of ways. I've been coping with my mortality a lot, and that has given me a lot of clarity in my life. And am I doing, kind of like what Jasmine said, like, what is my why? Like, am I doing the things that bring me joy, that bring purpose to the world, that are filling the cups of others and filling, most importantly, my cup, because our time here on earth is so small. And nothing like a chronic illness can really just like really hone you into that awakening. And it's been life-changing for so many ways. But cancer has also given me, I hate saying that it's given me a gift, because that cancer, especially chronic illness or any illness in general, like that there's really no gifts that come with that, but maybe a side effect, right, of what that's looked like for me is I've learned how to advocate for myself and to be a better advocate for young adults and adolescents that are going through this journey, and using my platform and my voice to bring forth some of these issues that have really slapped me in the face during this journey. And I keep coming back to my community, that the resiliency that I was able to find was because there were people around me that were picking me up when I was falling down and not letting me fall behind. It really stopped my career in a lot of, well, I felt like it did, even though I was working full time during treatment. I still am working. Right now, I don't have any evidence of disease, so that's a really beautiful win to kind of share and celebrate. But at any time that can switch, and I can start, second line of treatment, third line of treatment, whatever that looks like. So sometimes I don't know the answer to that question of where you find that resiliency. It's often making a choice of, I'm just going to keep going. I got to keep going. That's all you can do. And I'm really grateful to be here today and to be able to share that experience with everybody. And I'm really glad to be seen and heard. And ultimately that starts with sharing all parts of myself with others. So that's been a big lesson that I've learned, is asking for what I need and showing up and being vocal and sharing. So I think I kind of went on a couple tangents there.
That's all right. That's okay. Thank you, Madison, for sharing that. Thank you very much. Your message around resiliency comes in lots of different ways and serves us in different places at different times. So, okay, well, thank you. Our last panelist on how to share a story about how you've developed resiliency in the face of challenges and adversity is Nashika.
Hi, I just want to say thank you so much, Madison, for being vulnerable. In that same vein, and I think there's a through line between what you shared and what Jasmine shared, that resiliency is incredibly important, but at what cost? And it's really important that we need to ask ourselves that. And I was typing in the chat, there's this well-known conversation point in the Black community, especially as it relates to Black women, about really giving up of ourselves to our communities, and sometimes at our own detriment. And we fall into this trap of being a strong Black woman and it can cause harm. It can cause real harm, and it can get in the way of us really fulfilling our values, our why, our goals. So yeah, thank you both for sharing. And that was just a through line for me. And then I think for me, I was during the pandemic, I have my my son that I was trying to get through some of the most challenging times. You know, the virtual high school experience, if you will. I was working as a public information officer at the time, and I was serving on 3 committees, community committees, and it just all became too much when I learned that a family member had a brain tumor. And it was just then that I kind of realized that I was experiencing burnout, and I wasn't putting my time where it needed to be in order to be effective in my personal life, be effective in my professional life. And around this time, and I'm going to pull a quote because everybody else has pulled a quote, I think. I heard the song The Gambler. If you know that song by, I think Kenny Rogers sings it. And there's this line about knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them. And I think that is incredibly important. And that just really resonated with me at the time, that anytime I'm kind of, you know, thinking about my why and it's being pushed up against, or I'm being challenged in that way, that's when I need to ask myself, is this a time where I can stay and persevere through this? Or is this a time where I need to walk away or perhaps even run, you know, if it's not a healthy situation for me, and I can't continue to live my why, then maybe that's a time for me to walk away. And I think that's really part of resilience, is knowing when to walk away.
Well, that's outstanding, great advice. And I think maybe quote of our event here today is just know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Kenny Rogers. Okay. So, well, thank you very much. We've had a few questions come in, and we're going to have the opportunity to break out into some breakout sessions and have time to be perhaps asking some questions and going a little deeper. So I want thank you to the panelists who are willing to do this for all of us. And 2, I do have one question that I just thought while we're here that came in that I thought, Chayo, you might be able to give some good insight on. It was a question that came through of, what would be your key message to BIPOC high school grads that are going into college?
Key message. Wow. Well, I'd start first with, of course, Pierce College is here for you. So we're ready and willing and to embrace you. We've done a lot of work centered around Black and Brown excellence, student excellence. And so really proud to be an institution that is, not necessarily going to dismantle racism, but that's our north. That's what we're searching for. So for BIPOC students, I do think that, it's not just what colleges and universities can offer, I think, directly to the students. I think it's important to recognize the family, the community in which students are coming from, really understanding who our students are. No one person is alike. So really appreciating and teasing out what those needs are of the students. So I think it's really important, and I start with that. Education to me, and it's, another quote from Nelson Mandela that, education is power. Am I quoting that correctly? That's what the only words that come to me right now. But I do feel that, again, being ready to serve students is really important as an institution. We're ready for you, but what are we doing as an institution to support you, What infrastructure do we have? How are we going to craft and develop our resources to meet your needs? So yeah, I mean, it's not really what should I tell a BIPOC student? I think there's some reflection. It's more about being also present, and then making sure what we're doing as institutions dismantles those barriers.
Mhm.
So that's how I would, I guess, answer that in a roundabout way.
That's great. Thank you. I think you did a lovely job on that. So as we kind of wrap up, I just want to thank each one of the panelists. So, Katie, your scenic route from 1989 to today, and just this passion you have about being a curious leader and learner, I think really resonated well. Chayo, your first gen story of kind of GD to PhD. I love how you're rooted in the community college system that is so incredibly important. And your statement around it being a reflection of you and being able to go back to it now and do exactly what some did for you is just really amazing in your journey of lifting others up. So thank you. Nashika, your courage as a single mother to go onto a sailing vessel to finish your senior year, you should write a book. But your comment around the new traditional student is spot on. That needs to be taken to a whole nother place, and maybe Mariah can pull that out. Because I do think that represents so many pathways for people. But knowing your core value, that resonated for me, and that is a big takeaway. So thank you, Nashika, for your wise wisdom on that. Blair, I love your story around wanting first and foremost to make it better for your two boys. I think, for many of us who are parents, that is what we do, right? A lot of the times I'm always thinking about how do I make it better for my two daughters, and how do I ensure my son, is a better person and knows how to do the right things going forward as a human. But your piece in just the trenches that you work in every day, like you're having confidence and trust in yourself and your ability, but the fact that you take what you did by getting, your pharmacy doctorate and then going in and now applying that to people that get to experience your gifts real time is something that is very aspiring and inspirational. So thank you, Blair. Madison, even before your story and the courageous journey that you are on, you just have a very unique gift about you that you're just somebody that you're easy to gravitate towards immediately, and people obviously wanted to invest in you. And I love that you're now back in a library system investing in others, and just the advocating for yourself and others is very powerful. And I'm thankful that you had a community that has been by your side. So you're worthy of that for sure. Miss Jasmine, you're just, the courage around social justice and racial equity, and having courage to go educate others and share it, that's a big deal. And it's a very narrow ledge that you're constantly walking every day. So your centering around your why, it kind of hit home I think for a lot of people. I could see the reaction for many. And your quote is a takeaway for me, just again, of power through when necessary versus when not to power through. That there's such wisdom in that, Jasmine, that I wish I would have learned that maybe instead of running into 5,000 brick walls thinking I am going to seriously do this and then just not ever getting to do it. So I'm anxious and excited for your journey, Jasmine, as a leader, and because you have some wisdom beyond your years, for sure. So I'm really honored Mariah, thank you for the opportunity to just get to know these women and spend time with them. I love that resilience is important, but at what cost? Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and getting back to kind of that believer in counseling of all kinds, Nashika, and what that can do for us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You are all amazing. And at this time, I just want to kind of reinforce that this is why the Cougar Network is like so important. And I think we all can see that how incredibly vibrant it is and how active it is and how proud I am every day to be a part of this Cougar Nation and family. And now would like to invite everybody to join our assigned breakout sessions. We will not be coming back after the breakout sessions. So it is at this time, thank you everybody for being here, that we are closing out this portion. Really appreciate all of our panelists and all of the folks on this call. And let's just do a one giant big, let's go Cougs. So thank you.